Good afternoon, my dear and my darling. Have an excellent lunch this wonderful Monday. Well, it's in the crosshairs. It's in Minister Flávio Dino's sites, and the other is in Minister Alexandre de Moraes' sites. I'll explain everything to you. What's going on? Flávio's running mate. He is being investigated for diverting 6.2 million reais from budget transfers, known as PIX amendments. What happened? He sent that amount to a city hall there in Alagoas. And that money just disappeared. What do you mean, Andre? That's right. It disappeared. And the federal police are on top of it, investigating the situation. The one who sent that money to the city hall was Alfredo Gaspar, the running mate of the official candidate Flávio Bolsonaro for the presidency of the Republic. Do you know what's even more curious about this story? What's interesting is that the vice mayor of this municipality was hired by Alfredo Gaspar. In other words, Alfredo Gaspar hired the vice mayor of the city where the money disappeared as his advisor. But that's not all. The husband of the vice mayor of the city where the money he sent disappeared, if he even sent it, is also an advisor to Flávio's running mate, federal lawmaker Alfredo Gaspar. Like it's a lot of involvement, right? A lot going on in the same environment. Shall we take a look at a bit of this story here? Look here, okay? Flávio's deputy hired the vice mayor of the city where the PIX amendment disappeared. He sent the money to the city, the money disappeared, and he hired the city's vice mayor. But there's more. Look here. Ravena Valença, former employee of Congressman Alfredo Gaspar and current vice mayor of São José da Laje, next to her husband. And her husband is an employee. Ao Henrique Caldeira Silva works for Alfredo Gaspar. Oh my God. All of this is being investigated by the federal police. And the rapporteur of this investigation in the federal Supreme Court, since there is a federal deputy who has privileged jurisdiction, is exactly Minister Flávio Dino. Just think about the situation. There's going to be a lot to explain, right? It's just like Flávio. Flávio also has a lot to explain, especially regarding the money he received, right, from Daniel Vorcaro, who says it was for the movie. But to this day, they haven't accounted for that movie or that situation. In fact, the federal police seized and managed to find one of Daniel Vorcaro's private jets. It was there in Paraguay. The private jet worth more than 100 million reais. I wonder, was it on this jet that Nicolas Ferreira traveled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times? Nicolas Ferreira from the PL party. Will he campaign for Bolsonaro in 2022? Anyway, Flávio has a lot to explain and doesn't explain it. And Alfredo Gaspar also has a lot to explain about schemes, corruption, and criminal activity. Now, regarding Flávio, he is also trying to provoke a situation. Yesterday, right? I even talked a lot about this situation, but specifically earlier on the live stream. Yeah, Flávio played a recording of Bolsonaro again at the event. The one from Paulista. No, not Paulista. The one in Copacabana, right? It was a total flop yesterday at the start of Flávio's official campaign. Totally flopped. There were less than 9,000 people, while Lula's event in São Bernardo do Campo filled the stadium. Anyway, he played Bolsonaro's audio again, right? And provoking the justice system. He taunts the courts again, because we all know that Bolsonaro is forbidden from making public statements, especially about politics. Even artificial intelligence cannot be used to recreate Bolsonaro's likeness, speech, or voice. This was even decided by the TSE. I have some information about the TSE to tell you. The TSE went after Nunes Marques. Look, exactly, I'll talk about it in a bit. Calm down, don't get nervous, don't worry. Take this chance and hit that like button, okay? Then Flávio, again, knowing about this, being informed about it, provokes again putting the supposed audio of Bolsonaro there, supporting him, giving him his blessing, and so on, right? Alexandre de Moraes is on top of this situation. For sure, Alexandre de Moraes just might, will summon Bolsonaro again to ask if Bolsonaro made the audio, did anything, or if that was generated by artificial intelligence. Because Bolsonaro runs the risk of leaving house arrest and going back to Papuda, with this situation where his own son, Flávio Bolsonaro, puts him in this position. To try to make it look like he's being persecuted and so on, to play the victim and everything, with the risk of putting his father in jail. Again, who? Flávio Bolsonaro. And obviously, on the other hand, Flávio Bolsonaro also does this to create that environment himself, that this is a dictatorship, that he is being persecuted. And you can see it. That's why the TSE, the Supreme Court, is going after him. But he doesn't mention that he's causing trouble and provoking the Brazilian justice system, just like his father did. It's the same thing, isn't it? So, in this case, Alexandre de Moraes is keeping an eye on him, okay? And soon, there will be another summons for explanations. He provokes to create situations so that he can play the victim, act like he's poor, helpless, and not only that, he also does this to create a smokescreen so that people forget to ask, what about Daniel Alvorcaro's money? Where did it go? Did it really go into the field? Where's the accounting, right? So he does all this to create this mess, to create that smokescreen. It's like a photo or a little video he posted that he even put on his social media of himself, Flávio Bolsonaro, in swim trunks, in swim briefs, with a presidential sash like this. Cara, man, he was wearing white swim briefs. He ended up looking like, you know what? Like those guys from porn movie ads, you know? So like I keep thinking, guys, what kind of craziness is this? The evangelicals, I look at them and I'm like, oh my God, what is this? It's just a smokescreen. It's a new smokescreen. Why? Flávio, he's going to work in this election campaign with absurdities, with catchphrases, and with nothing at all. And with promises that won't be kept, not even if he wins. Why, Andrea? Because he has nothing to show. And he needs to cover up and hide his relationship with Daniel Alvorcaro. Besides other situations that should come to light and be revealed as we move toward October 4th, which is the first round, right? He needs to stir things up to take the spotlight of what's really important. Like, for example, where's the accountability for all this involvement between Dani and Daniel Alvorcaro? Let's keep going here. Let's take a look at this situation. Look here. With a recorded speech from Bolsonaro, Flávio kicks off the presidential race. Look here. Yesterday in Copacabana. And besides that, after helping to bring about the tarifaço, Flávio still criticized Lula for reacting to the United States. Flávio Bolsonaro, together with Eduardo Bolsonaro, helped with the tarifaço situation against Brazil. So now Lula has no other choice but to follow the law. And last year, the National Congress approved the reciprocity law. Any country that should adopt international trade measures against Brazil, especially without following the rules, without a fair and proper reason, Brazil has to do the same thing and use reciprocity against that country. And Lula announced this on Friday to the United States, that there will be reciprocity. The United States taxed Brazil, Brazil will tax the United States. Then Flávio Bolsonaro took the opportunity yesterday in Copacabana. Instead of defending our democracy, our sovereignty, he once again acted as a servant and doormat for Donald Trump, to the point of criticizing Lula for defending our sovereignty, our autonomy, and Brazil's interests, which are being attacked because of this tarifaço, which has no justifiable reason. So much so that 25 governors from the United States have already taken legal action there against Donald Trump's tarifaço against Brazil because there is no justifiable reason. And this causes problems, especially for the United States itself. Well, Andre, but why does Donald Trump do that then? It's because he wants to sabotage Lula's government? He wants to blackmail Lula's government and wants to pressure Lula's government to be subservient to the United States agenda, to Trump's agenda for Brazil, which is what? Exploitation. To come here, take the rare earths, the critical minerals, take our wealth, and bring it over there without any compensation. For us Brazilians, who do the rare earths belong to? Who benefits from them? And the Lula government does not accept that. So, besides all that, besides being a flop, besides the embarrassment, besides once again provoking the courts, Flávio Bolsonaro attacked Lula for putting into effect, into practice, a law that was approved in the Federal Senate and in the Chamber of Federal Deputies last year, which is the reciprocity law. Yeah, once a doormat, right? Always a doormat. As my grandmother used to say, my daughter, don't lower your head too much, okay? Because if you lower your head, you show your butt. And when you show your butt, a kick in the butt comes right after. That's the case with Flávio. And Flávio, he's on a streak of bad luck, right? He's on a streak of bad luck. The so-called motorcycle rally was scheduled today in Juiz de Fora, just like his father did. And he went there. And actually, he was going there to hold the motorcycle rally there. And what happened? He was forbidden to land because of the weather. And he had to go back to the capital of Minas Gerais, right? To Belo Horizonte. And he couldn't do the motorcycle rally there in Juiz de Fora because the weather didn't allow it. Oh, Jesus, right? Not even Jesus wants Flávio in these shenanigans, you know? So he's on a terrible streak of bad luck. Then right after he announced it there at the start of his campaign yesterday in Copacabana, right? Then he went to watch the Vasco game, since he supports Vasco. And Vasco got crushed. Vasco lost 3-0 to Santos. And besides that, he was booed at the stadium. So like his bad luck, don't get close or you'll get contaminated. Look here, booed. Flávio Bolsonaro leaves São Januário before the end of Vasco's defeat to Santos. On his first official day of campaigning, the PL candidate is heckled from the stands and quietly leaves the stadium after the opponent's third goal. That's rough, huh? It already started off badly, and it's going to end badly. Why? Lula, 4-time winner. No, don't leave me talking to myself. Don't leave me alone and just put it there. Lula, 4-time winner. Flávio Bolsonaro can't land and cancels his schedule in Juiz de Fora. Flávio was going to do a motorcycle rally in Juiz de Fora, but he wasn't allowed to land and will go straight to BH. Supporters left the place frustrated. And by the way, there were just a few die-hard fans there, you know? There were only a few people waiting for him there in Juiz de Fora for the motorcycle rally. Just a handful of die-hard fans. And according to the weather forecast, he couldn't land because the weather there is really overcast. It's really cold. It's really bad there. His streak of bad luck, I think it's going to last even after the campaign. I could say until the campaign because he's going to get beaten by Lula, but that's not it because after the campaign, he won't be anything anymore. By the way, he'll be a senator until December 31, 2026. On January 1, 2027, it's over. He won't be anything anymore. So what's going to happen? He's going to follow the same modus operandi and path as his brother. He'll go to the United States. Why? Because he's going to get in trouble here. He's going to end up in jail. Why? Doesn't he have parliamentary immunity? He's going to get in trouble. That's the situation. Yes, December 31. That's it. His term as senator ends. Then, will he lose to Lula? He won't be anything anymore. Will he have parliamentary immunity? He won't have a position. He won't have anything anymore, just like Eduardo Bolsonaro. And the only place he can go soon will be to the United States, just like Eduardo, so he won't get arrested. Because he'll have to answer for the schemes he was involved in, directly or indirectly. Do you understand, my dear? So he's really in trouble. Now, this trick of bad luck isn't over yet, right? I told you from the beginning, my dear. It doesn't matter if the crowd thinks that André Mendonça being vice president of the TSE and Nunes Marques being president of the TSE, that they're going to make things happen. I said this from the beginning. Back then, I told you. And what happened?
Aconteceu?
The Superior Electoral Court overturned the decision made by the president of the court, Nunes Marques. Do you remember that Flávio Bolsonaro made a video attacking Lula, saying that Lula was involved with the Comando Vermelho and the PCC? Then he made a video using artificial intelligence on a jet together with Bolsonaro. All that show, that nonsense, that only idiots who like that kind of stupidity enjoy. And so on. Then the PT took action to take down this video.
Nunes Marques said no.
No, you can leave the video. Freedom of speech. Meanwhile, André Mendonça was cracking down and telling the PT and the left to take down videos that linked Flávio Bolsonaro to the militia. Then on the other side, the PL, Flávio, could post all the nonsense. It was all called freedom of speech. So what happened then? The plenary of the Superior Electoral Court overturned Nunes Marques' single-judge preliminary decision and said the video must be taken down. If it's not allowed on one side, it's not allowed on the other either. Did you get the message? It's what I told you all. It doesn't matter. They might even make a decision that at first benefits Flávio Bolsonaro. But this decision necessarily has to go before the full court. And the plenary will bring justice, guys. There has to be, like I always tell you, equality of arms. The same tools that I have, you also need to have to defend yourself, and vice versa. Otherwise, it becomes an unbalanced and unfair relationship. That can't happen in the electoral process. If PT can do it, PL can do it. If PL can do it, PT can do it. And that's what's right, okay? If the video saying that Flávio is involved with the militia was taken down, the video saying that Lula is involved with the PCC was also taken down. That's how it is. You can't do it. Got it? This stupidity, right? Look here, Brazil's Superior Electoral Court overturned Nunes Marques' decision and ordered the removal of Flávio Bolsonaro's video about Lula. The case was judged in the court's virtual plenary session, in an extraordinary session held between August 12 and 14. The lawsuit was filed by the Brazil of Hope Federation, formed by PT, PCdoB, and PV, against Senator Flávio Bolsonaro, who posted this video there trying to make that connection. But that wasn't all. No, there's more. Look here, look. President of Brazil's Superior Electoral Court meets with ambassadors this Monday to defend the reliability of the voting machines. Nunes Marques called a meeting after questions were raised about the electronic voting system. More than 100 diplomats are confirmed, including a representative from the United States. Why is Nunes Marques doing this here? First, because he's under pressure. Let me tell you something here. If Nunes Marques didn't do this here, do you know who would do it? Alexandre de Moraes, André. It could have been Alexandre de Moraes. Because Alexandre de Moraes is currently the vice president of the Supreme Federal Court, and he could hold a meeting like this, summoning ambassadors. But I believe it wouldn't even be Alexandre de Moraes. It would be the current president of the Supreme Federal Court, Edson Fachin. He would do it. Nunes Marques is being pressured then. Either you do your job or someone else will. Being pressured, he then decided to call this meeting. And we know why. It was because Flávio, back then, there was a meeting of the PL with Flávio and ambassadors from the PL, just like Bolsonaro did, and cast doubt on the electronic voting machines. Flávio Bolsonaro even said that Venezuela, a company from Venezuela, was making the electronic voting machines. Do you remember that? I'm not crazy, and you're not crazy. Wasn't it? It was. And it's a lie. The Superior Electoral Court itself denied that and said that doesn't exist. So Flávio is following the same path as his father, and the result will be the same. Flávio Bolsonaro will become ineligible. Listen to what I'm telling you. He won't have his mandate revoked because he will lose his mandate on December 31st of this year. But starting in 2027, he will be held accountable for abuse of political power and for abuse of political advertising. And the consequence will be, since he won't hold office, it will be a heavy fine and he will be declared ineligible. Because he's following the same path as his father, we already know the result. Bolsonaro did the same thing, guys. Bolsonaro met with diplomats and questioned the electronic system. With no evidence, nothing. With lies and fake news, just like Flávio is doing. Flávio has already done it, actually. What is the consequence for Bolsonaro? Bolsonaro has to pay, in one of the lawsuits, more than 400,000 reais. In another, more than 600,000 reais. And he was declared ineligible. The same thing will happen to Flávio. That's why Nunes Marques is doing this here, because he was pressured and he will have to clarify. Look, the electronic system is secure. The electronic system is audited. The electronic system is open to political parties, to the Brazilian Bar Association, to anyone who wants to see the whole situation during a certain period of time. Blah, blah, blah. The ones who operate it are public servants who passed a civil service exam. There's the source code. I'm the one who has access. So, it's not that reliable. So calm down, everyone. No. I've already said he's not going to risk his life, his career, because of Bolsonaro. No, guys. They'll help with a little single judge decision, buy some time here, a little more time there, right, André Mendonça? But put themselves on the line because of Flávio? They won't, no. And that's the situation here. Look, there's going to be a meeting where he'll explain how the electoral system works. But there was another defeat. This time, it was André Mendonça. André Mendonça also suffered another overwhelming defeat in the plenary of the Superior Electoral Court. I said it before, and I'll say it again. Institutions are bigger than individuals. And I told you that the institutions would react. And I also said, if the Superior Electoral Court doesn't react, the Supreme Court will, and they'll overturn it. Was I right or not? I was. And apparently, the Superior Electoral Court doesn't want to go through that embarrassment. Look here. It was published in Gazeta do Povo. The Superior Electoral Court decided this Saturday, the 15th, not to analyze the injunction in which Minister André Mendonça ordered the Workers' Party to hand over all accounting records related to the 8th National Congress. From the party and from the launch event of the Lula spokesperson's project, the vote ended 5-2. Who voted, André? He and Nunes Marques. What did he want, Nunes Marques? He wanted to conduct a thorough investigation into the convention that the PT held, called Lula's Spokespersons. Without any indication of corruption, without any indication of fraud, without any indication of anything. André Mendonça already stepped in and made the decision, saying that what did the PT have to send? All the accounting records, all the details of the event to him. Then the plenary said no. And what was the main reason the plenary did this, besides what I just explained? It was because André Mendonça took it upon himself to make the decision. And it wasn't a matter of drawing lots as usual. Do you understand, my dear? Then the TSC said, it's not me, no. There has to be a drawing, and for the right person. Whoever is chosen will decide whatever needs to be decided. You can't just force things through by pressure or arm twisting. No, that's more or less what happened. And André Mendonça got brought down to earth. Hey, Man, he was really eager to get that thing, right, André Mendonça? But it's not by force, right, André? It has to be a drawing. If you're chosen, then that's a different story. Then you can make whatever decision you want, but even so, it will be upheld, confirmed, or overturned by the full court. Right, André Mendonça? Right, Nunes Marques? Yeah. And here's the thing.
If the TSE doesn't overturn it, guys, the TSE is going to be embarrassed.
Because the Supreme Court will overturn it. There's the Constitution. There's the Electoral Code. There are laws that have to be followed. Want to make a decision? You can decide. But it has to be based on these fundamental principles. If not, it will be overturned. Look here. Look at what I told you. Federal police locate Vorcaro's plane in Paraguay. The aircraft was found in Asunción, the capital of Paraguay. The plane returned to Brazil this Sunday and will be subject to the appropriate legal measures. What for, André? It will be to guarantee the corruption of the Vorcaro mafia. It will only slightly reduce the corruption. The plane costs more than 100 million reais. It's just a drop in the bucket compared to the more than 50 billion from the fraud and theft by Daniel Vorcaro. You understand? They're after the assets, the money, to try to reduce the theft by Daniel Vorcaro's mafia. Flávio still hasn't explained where the 61 million reais they received for Bolsonaro's Pangaré movie went. They still haven't accounted for it. I want to know where that money went. We know it went to a fund, something called Ravengate. It was in Texas, where Eduardo Bolsonaro lives, in a 6 million mansion. Who's paying the bill? And here's the thing. The person responsible for the fund is Eduardo Bolsonaro's lawyer. Can you believe it? Or do you want more? And here's the thing. Do you think this jet here is the one Nicolas rode on? Nicolas, huh? Nicolas Ferreira. He only rode Daniel Vorcaro's jet 10 times? What a bunch of scammers, guys. And look, it was a hit. First day of the campaign, Lula in São Bernardo do Campo. 40,000 people, packed. And Flávio flopped. Flávio Bolsonaro in Copacabana, 3,000 people. First day of the campaign, Flávio in Copacabana. But actually, we have to be fair. It wasn't just 3,000 people. There were a little over 8,000 people, right, André? Yes. I'm not going to lie, guys. Why lie? There's no need to lie. Flávio had only a little over 8,000 people, and Lula had 40,000, maybe even more than 40,000 people. You can see for yourself, right? Even Congressman Lindbergh Farias. Let me see if I have him here. Yes, I have him here. He was there. And he said, Chico Chico. Let's see what he said here. Did you like it yet? Didn't like it? What's wrong? Aren't you enjoying it? What did I do to you? You're hungover, aren't you? Hit that like button and drink plenty of water. And be more sensible next time. Oh, Jesus. Let's watch this together. Pay attention.
Living here from Villa Euclides, historic event, our President Lula. Guys, it's packed. Look at the difference compared to that failed rally by Flávio Bolsonaro over in Rio de Janeiro on Atlântica. It's a whole different story, guys. Those people keep going out to the streets, carrying the United States flag. Look at our giant flag, the green and yellow flag of Brazil. Flávio Bolsonaro is Trump's candidate. We are going to win again. It's Lula's fourth victory. It started today.
Guys, I almost forgot to ask for your vote for
Federal Deputy Lindbergh, 1300. It's Lindbergh. It's 1300.
Wow, now we can ask for votes, right, guys? Now we can ask for votes and all that. Why? Because now it's the official campaign. And many people have been asking, Andrea, who are you going to vote for? Andrea, help us out. How is it going to be? Don't worry. In my live streams, I will always show it just like this, okay? I will always show you that in this election is going to be like this, okay? Let's start from the bottom up. President, we already know, 13. Governor in your state, you already know, 13. For senator, the number starts with 13. Now, here I need to explain something to you. Many states don't have senators running for the Senate. 13. Why? Because they couldn't get a candidate for that state, for the Senate. Those are different numbers, okay? but I'll always share it with you here, like Goiás. I'll show you my cheat sheet, who I'm going to vote for in Goiás. I'll show you who I would vote for in São Paulo. Then I'll show you my cheat sheet for São Paulo, who I would vote for in São Paulo, who I would vote for in Rio Grande do Sul. Then I'll show you the cheat sheet, who I would vote for in Rio Grande do Sul. By the way, I'm going to do a live stream showing all 27 states of the federation, who I would vote for. You always ask me for this, and I'm going to do it this year, okay? Who I would vote for. Because this is how it's going to be. Look, it's going to be president, governor. There will be 2 Senate seats, 2 Senate seats, state deputy and federal deputy, okay? And the Senate, then you ask, Andrea, what about the Senate if there isn't a PT candidate? There are several other candidates, good candidates from other parties. And I will tell you who I would vote for. In each state, I will tell you who I would vote for. For example, here, look, 2 good female candidates that I would put here on this cheat sheet. For example, here in São Paulo, Simone Tebet, TSB. Her number is 400. And Marina Silva from Rede, 180. I would put this 2 here on this cheat sheet, you know? But don't worry, I'll put all those people I would vote for if I were from your state. I'll include all the states. I'll do a live stream to clarify this, okay? Just to highlight, in many states, there aren't any Senate candidates from PT. So we have to choose among the best ones, okay? Simone Tebet, Marina Silva, and several others that I'll mention to you gradually. And I'll do a special live stream about that too, who I would vote for. Who I'm going to vote for in Goiás, because I'm from Goiás, all right? Let's keep going here. Quest, Lula leads the presidential race and opens up a lead in the first round. Lula maintains an advantage over Flávio Bolsonaro at the start of the campaign, according to BTG Nexus. In the second round, Lula continues to beat all his opponents. Look at this one. This one came out on Friday. Lula beats everyone in the first and second rounds. And this one came out today. Lula has 41 in the first round and Flávio has 36%. Okay? Lula also beats everyone in the first and second rounds, according to the poll that came out today. Look right here. In the second round, Lula keeps beating all his opponents, 47-44 against Flávio Bolsonaro, 45-42 against Caiado, 46-41 against Zema, and 47-36 against Renan Santos. And I'll give you the formula right here. It's to win in the first round. Let's get involved and let's win in the first round. Because, André, there's no better candidate. Just so you know, there are people who don't even believe in their own candidate. Gilberto Kassab. Gilberto Kassab sent the message that Flávio doesn't have any chance of beating Lula. And he wasn't even there with Ronaldo Caiado at the official campaign launch. It gives the impression that not even they believe in their own campaign. Look here. Caiado launches campaign without Kassab after the running mate said that Flávio has 0 chance against Lula. The PSD candidate tries to do damage control for the ticket and says the ally was misunderstood. The statement upset the Bolsonaro clan and exposed the split on the right. Even Kassab seems to be campaigning for Lula, guys. For God's sake, why, André? It's because he doesn't believe. He doesn't believe in these candidates. He doesn't believe that Lula will lose to these people. And honestly, I don't believe it either. I think it's more likely that Lula will win a 4th time. And in the first round, there's also that. See? And depending on what is still revealed about Flávio's schemes, which I believe are real, and they told me there's even a dossier that they'll release gradually, dear, it will all go downhill and Lula will be rising like a rocket. You can wait and see. Meanwhile, Lula is talking behind the scenes, just like I told you Lula has to do. There's no other way. So much so that Davi Alcolumbre got his fat butt up and took out from under his butt where he was sitting the public security pack and the end of the 6 days on, 1 day off schedule. I told you what he wanted, guys. You don't have to be very smart or anything. He wants Lula's support for his re-election to the Senate next year, for the Senate presidency next year. Whose election will be next year, at the beginning of next year, where they, among themselves, among the senators, they hold an election and they choose a senator as president of the House. In the same way in the Chamber of Deputies. Among themselves, they hold the vote, the 513 federal deputies, and they choose the president of the House, of the Chamber of Deputies. Hugo Mota asked for support from Lula, and Davi Alcolumbre wanted support from Lula. And apparently, Lula must have worked out that support, because Davi Alcolumbre released the Public Security PAC to proceed, and also released the PAC to end the 6 days on, 1 day off schedule, which had already been approved in the Chamber of Deputies and was stalled. Both of them were stalled. And he started moving it forward toward possible approval. And in the same way, Hugo Mota has already announced formal support for Lula's re-election. And he said that Lula is the best candidate. So there must have been negotiations in that sense. I always tell you that it's not ideal, but it's the reality. They are politically strong within the House, and Lula needs support. I especially emphasize to win in the first round. It would indeed be a very important turning point if Lula won in the first round, okay? And if he doesn't win, he will keep going so he can win in the second round. Look here. The Centrão is getting closer to Lula, while Alcolumbre, Mota, and Lira are avoiding Flávio during the election. The Congress leadership acted so that União Brasil, PP and Republicanos remained neutral and weakened Flávio's coalition. It was because of this maneuver here that Flávio couldn't get any running mate, except for one from his own party. It was thanks to Lula's maneuvering that no party sided with Flávio Bolsonaro. Not even. Do you know what none means? None. To the point that he couldn't even get a woman as his vice or anyone from another party with him. He had to choose and chose Alfredo Caspar, which to me is terrible self-sabotage. Terrible for his campaign. From his own party, because nobody wanted to ally with Flávio because of Lula's maneuvering. And obviously, that wasn't the only reason. Behind Lula's maneuvering, there's also the goal of approving the Public Security Constitutional Amendment and the approval of ending the 6-on, 1-off work schedule, which Davi Alcolumbre was holding back. But we can't forget about this whole situation. It's thanks to Lula's political ability to make this mediation happen, to achieve the best for Brazil, which will certainly be fully accomplished, both the end of the 6 days on, 1 day off schedule, as well as the approval of the Public Security PEC, among other things that Lula will put forward to be approved. Just like he did, and it was approved, for example, the income tax exemption for all workers who earn up to 5,000 reais, okay? Lula is exceptional. Lula is the man. Write it down. Lula is the man. Lula will win 4 times. Lula, and then the haters cry because Flávio, oh, how ridiculous. Some people are asking me to put it, so I will. I didn't want to put it, but since you all are asking, look here. Look how ridiculous this is, guys. I'm not going to show the video, though, because no one has to. Flávio Bolsonaro posts an AI-generated image of himself in swim briefs and with a presidential sash. No, guys. What is this, Andrea? For God's sake, I'll explain what this is. This is the smoke screen. Okay, he's trying to put up a smoke screen so no one asks for explanations about several things involving him. And at the same time, it's a way to try to work on people's minds for when his video leaks of him in swim briefs at Daniel Vorcaro's party with the hookers, where they're already saying, it's official behind the scenes, that there's a video of Flávio at an orgy, at the orgy party, where he cheats on Duterte and even cheats on his own wife. And possibly he'll be in this situation here, or worse. Then he tries to put out this image to try to normalize it in people's minds when that video leaks too. There's that as well. This is a marketing strategy to shape people's thinking, to make the situation seem natural. But they say they are God, homeland, and Jesus' family. Infidelity is a mortal sin. And what kind of family man is that, right? So, I've already told you that I don't care about the moral aspect. That's not the point. But from the moment someone acts like a fake moralist, keeps pointing fingers at others, and is a huge fraud, then we have to talk about it and expose that situation too. So for me, this is just a marketing ploy to try to subtly, especially for the gullible crowd, as my grandmother used to say, plant the idea so that when the video leaks, people will think it's normal. From him, like this, or even worse. Besides the smokescreen, right? Because he doesn't present anything he's done for Brazil, since he's never done anything. His government plan is just cutting down on the backs of workers and the poor. And he keeps using these catchphrases and tricks, so no one asks him. And what about Vorcaro's money? By the way, the stolen money that Daniel Vorcaro gave to the movie about your dad's nag, where is the accounting report for the movie? So this is all just for show in this whole situation. Okay, that's the point. And there's another aspect here that I want to discuss with you. Look here, okay? The Trump administration is considering invoking the Magnitsky Act. Again and again with this Magnitsky Act? Did anything change in Alexandre de Moraes' life, André? Nothing. He just became even more determined to go after these traitors to the country. And I actually think that's not enough even. Once again, the Trump administration is considering invoking the Magnitsky Act against Moraes once again, says the Financial Times. The British newspaper points out that the discussion was revived after Moraes, the narrative about the breach of confidentiality due to searches against a blogger from Maranhão. And it's the second time in less than a year that Washington is considering sanctioning Justice Alexandre de Moraes. I'm going to say things that you, my God, Jesus, Daddy, my darlings, Alexandre de Moraes did what had to be done. I've already told you that journalists have the right to protect their sources. That the journalist, Pablo, he wasn't forced to reveal his source, which is Raimundo Cutrim. Cutrim. At no point was he forced, so there was no breach of source confidentiality at all. But there's a catch too. The journalist's source confidentiality does not remove the police's duty and power to investigate a source if they are suspected of committing crimes. It doesn't. One thing is one thing, another thing is another thing. And Alexandre de Moraes did what had to be done. And the reasons for this are fully justifiable, especially since the physical safety of Minister Flávio Dino and his family was at stake. That's obvious. The United States and the herd used that. Hi, Minister Alexandre de Moraes, dictator. Baby, baby, baby. All that talk is just nonsense. And the United States takes advantage of this cannon fodder to make little threats to the Supreme Federal Court, to Lula's government. Why? Because they want to have Brazil's gates wide open to come in and steal from Brazil. And Lula doesn't allow it. Long story short, this is like Xuxa's show. Not that I have anything against Xuxa's show, but this is just fodder. This is to feed the herd, and none of them will be coming. Nothing will change in Minister Alexandre de Moraes' life if this situation happens again. And the minister will be even more eager to catch the traitors of the country. Right, Flávio? Right, Eduardo? Oh my God, these people never get tired of embarrassing themselves on credit, debit, and Pix, do they? For God's sake. Traitors to the nation, get this through your heads. You shall not pass. Flávio's path is the same path his father took and his brother took. Bolsonaro is already in jail, and Eduardo, soon, officially. He's a fugitive from justice. And he won't be able to leave the United States and go anywhere else. And when the owner, Donald Tranqueira, loses the election there, because he can't even think about re-election unless he stages a coup, he won't even be able to get his successor elected. Then Eduardo will have to flee the United States. Otherwise, he'll be arrested there. Flávio is walking the same path. It's just like my grandmother used to tell me, my daughter, everyone gives what they have. There's no point in you waiting a pearl from a pig because he won't give it to you. It's the same thing with the Bolsonaro family. There's no point in you expecting something good. You don't have it to give. Do you understand? So if you keep waiting, you'll just get frustrated. You'll get frustrated. That's why we're Lula Tetra. Go ahead, Lula Tetra, and hit the like button. It's just getting started. Kisses, thank you so much. And